with the right content, with and how to execute it with examples. So these are the three steps that we are going to go through. A little bit about me before we start out. So I'm an ex-in-house lawyer, and I built an audience on LinkedIn by accident. When I say accident, is essentially I was an in-house counsel who created content for in-house counsel, and I was sharing all of my methods and all of the things that I was doing as an in-house counsel to stop being labeled as a cost center and all the typical issues that in-house counsels face. And one day I clicked on my profile and I saw 6,000 followers there. I had never clicked on my profile before, and it was really mind-blowing. And having built an audience and enabled me to pivot to legal technology. So I had a bespoke role on the back of that audience that I had built for a CLM company. They really wanted to tap into that audience in order to promote their product and so on. So I had a role there, and I was pretty much burnt out of my in-house life as well. So that was perfect. And then more and more lawyers started to come to me and ask me, how did you build an audience, and how do you create content, and all of those questions. In 2021 or 2022, I offered to help five lawyers, and now here we are. I've personally worked with 35 of them so far, and they've generated hundreds of thousands of dollars from LinkedIn alone, which is a milestone that I'm pretty proud about. So that is in a nutshell. So now let's get into the meat of the content. So first of all, one of the questions was, well, how do I attract the right clients? And by right, I really mean your ideal client profile, as you've mentioned in the question. So it all stems from one thing, which is to create content, but not just create content, but create content in your micro niche. And this is where I think a lot of lawyers particularly get confused, is that they kind of assimilate their niche with their practice area. So they might say, my niche is commercial, privacy, and so on. And I'm here to tell you that from a content perspective, it's absolutely not a niche. A niche is made of way more layers than just a practice area. And the way I define a niche is through three lenses. First, you need the what. The what is it that you do is your practice area. But it's not just enough to have a what, you need to have a who. And you have to be very clear in terms of who is it that you're targeting with your service. So in this particular example, tech entrepreneurs. And how are you delivering the value? Because again, if we refer to privacy, you could provide privacy advice. You could provide coaching services on becoming a privacy consultant, for example. You could have a privacy software for general counsels. So that is really why the way I define the micro niche is with the what, the who, and the how. And that's really what makes a micro niche in the most a more accurate sense. And as you can see here, once you've identified all of those criteria, then the content becomes a lot more targeted. So on the right-hand side, one piece of content that this particular lawyer could talk about is how to avoid 5 privacy issues when developing a software. Another one could be a myth about privacy controls. And I'm going to show you what happens when you just change one of the criteria. So if you replace the who and you move away from tech entrepreneur to HR professionals, as you can see, the content becomes very different. And now, instead of referring to privacy issues in softwares, you might talk about privacy issues when hiring employees or when hiring contractors, and so on. So this is how important having all of those characteristics are in order for you to create content that speaks to the right people and therefore enables you to grow an audience of your ideal client profile. Now, I will go a step further. If you really want to create the right content within your micro niche, you have to add an extra ingredient, which is to link your micro niche to a bigger purpose. In other words, what I call the why. Why does it matter? Why should people pay attention? Why should people care? And the reason why people would care is usually down to three reasons, really. The reason why people care is either because whatever you post can help them save or make money. Number two, save or make time. Number three, you are providing a form of emotional benefit. By that, I mean peace of mind, relief, confidence, etc. So anything that you post always has to link to one of those characteristics. And to hopefully make it a bit more concrete, I'm going to ask you a simple question, hopefully. Why do people buy Rolex?
Not to tell time.
Yes, 100%, not to tell the time. No one buys a Rolex for that.
I mean, I don't know. I would say, yeah, probably either just as a status thing, kind of representing status and success, or just like kind of I mean, there are so many people with unique interests in watches these days, so maybe being a collector or of sorts.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the status one, definitely. That's essentially what I referred to before as the emotional benefit. You want to feel in a certain way. Anything else? No? All right, well, let me give you the answer. So the reason why people buy Rolex, and by the way, this Rolex example is just to show you if it does apply on a watch, it can apply on legal services. The reason why people buy Rolex, if we link it back to the why people care, in terms of the making money factor, well, if you have a Rolex, as you were saying, Brian, you elevate your status, right? You communicate a certain status, and you could potentially charge higher rates. If you show up in a business meeting, you have a Rolex, people might make certain assumption in terms of your rates and how much you're worth, if you will. Number two, in terms of the time component, while you are saving time, not having to prove yourself. Number three, the emotional benefit, the sense of achievement, and so on. So this is obviously, and again, this is the watch example, but now if we look at a legal example, so here I've given you the what, employee disputes, the who, small businesses in the US, and the how, legal advice and settlement. What would be the why here? If we try to link it to the example, to the Rolex example.
Why people hire legal services, you're asking?
Yes, so the big why, save time, make time, save money, make money, emotional benefit. Yes, so what would be the why in this particular example?
I guess they want to avoid risk.
Yeah.
They want to avoid the unknown.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that would be emotional benefit, peace of mind. I don't know what I don't know. I need to know. Yeah. What else?
And also, you know, you're saving money if ultimately you're eliminating risk or the potential of spending a lot more money than you should.
Yes. Yeah, you're saving money because it could be a lot more costly later down the line. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. What about time? What about the time factor?
Yeah, I mean, you have I used to jokingly say I have my day job, right? And these litigation, this stuff kind of takes away from that. And so it's worth it just to settle it quick, be done quick. And then you get back to, you know, what your bread and butter is about.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that's essentially, it's time that I don't have to spend on something that doesn't grow the business. So there's an element of time saved and there's an element of time made in doing something that makes money. So you can see how, you know, the reasons why people pay attention and buy legal services has nothing to do with, you know, here is, I've been ranked top whatever, and I've been featured in X and Y. It's always down to, okay, can you save me time? Can you save me money? Can you make it go away? Right? So this is always like the bigger purpose behind legal services that are valuable, and the reason why people ultimately buy from lawyers. So every single time when you think of your micro niche, always remember, okay, why is it important? Like, why do people pay attention? Why am I adding value? And you're adding value usually through those three lenses. So really, your content, not in order for you to attract the right clients, I mean, first you have to speak to the people within your micro niche, right? But beyond that, in order for you to really attract more and more of them and really become the go-to, you have to position yourself as a bridge between where they are now and where they want to go. So where they are now, they are stuck in hell. So they are in pain. They have certain challenges and obstacles. That's the current reality. So the litigation example, I've had this employee that has been giving me a hard time for the last 6 months. I want to get rid of them, but they don't want to go, they don't want to settle, etc. That's the pain, that's the state they're in. And they want to get to a position where this employee is gone for good, and they can go back to focusing on the business, and they want that to be taken care of. And that's where you come in. So your content really has to communicate that bridge, that you are the bridge between where they are and where they want to go. And that's how you attract, not only that's how you attract them, but that's how you stand out from everyone else in your basically your competitors. Okay, so far so good. Any questions? No?
Sounds good.
Great. Okay,
I actually have one thought as you were talking a lot about like the how and the why parts. How much of that turns into, I think, what people would call a voice, or like their own like, I guess, the way in which they're presenting their value. How much of that turns into what your unique presence and unique voice is, because you've boiled down your niche into like all these kind of like subcategories, or is that totally separate from this?
So, well, I think hopefully the second part will answer that question. I think it's more of an execution question. Okay, so I know the big picture. Now, how do I make it happen?
Okay.
In my is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I think, like, you know, a lot of this in getting to like a very kind of narrowed niche, and really doing the exercise there of like boiling down your content into something that's very specific so it stands out, kind of blends into something, which is the goal here is to differentiate yourself from the
Yep.
pack and gain an audience. And I know a lot of people do that successfully by having a voice that is theirs, on social media or just in life in general.
Yep.
And so, you know, are these two separate concepts? Do they blend together in your eyes? But you may be getting into that a little bit.
Yeah, I think hopefully I hope to be answering that question between the last two bullets, because it's all down to execution. Really, it's all down to, okay, what should I be posting, and how should I do it, essentially. But no matter what you do, it always has to fall within that micro niche, and it has to touch on the actual pain that your ideal client is facing. But hopefully, I mean, if I don't answer the question, of course, guys, I'm here at the end, so we can go through the questions. But in order for you to get to get people to give you a follow, and but not only that, to inquire from you, right? At the end of the day, there's three factors which you may have heard of: the know, the trust, and the like factor. I mean, first they have to know that you exist on LinkedIn, because otherwise there is no way they will contact you one day, right? So they have to know that you exist, and that's where the content comes in. But it's not just about posting, it's about posting the right thing, right? That you have to exist as an association to solving a particular problem or achieving a particular outcome. So that's where, if you just talk about intellectual property in general, like trademark updates, like we see a lot in the legal industry, it doesn't really, if I'm a designer, I don't really know, I mean, how is that relevant to me? Whereas if you talk about trademarks in the context of the world of design and how this is going to impact the ownership of logo for designers, now it's becoming much more specific, right? So people have to know that you exist in relation to a particular niche. Then, but it's not enough. Once they know that you exist, they have to trust you. They have to believe that you can help them in some shape or form. And finally, they have to like you as well. I mean, no one wants to hire someone that they don't like, right? So there needs to be some set alignment in the values, in the vision. And this is where, Brian, where you touch on the personality aspect and the unique voice, this is really where it comes in. And I'm going to show you what that looks like in content. But, you know, overall, these are the three factors. And you have to, I don't know if you've heard of the Dunbar numbers before, but before anyone buys anything from you, so before anyone makes an inquiry, they have to essentially spend or consume 7 hours of content across 11 touch points in 4 different locations. So that means that they need to potentially consume 7 hours worth of content through different forms. It could be articles, it could be videos, it could be podcasts, it could be short form or long form content across so different medium, 11 touch points, 4 locations. That could be LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, newsletter. So that's really what it takes for people to feel that they kind of know, like, and trust you enough to at least inquire from you. So once we know that, we understand that for a content to land, it has to really drive in cycles. So in order for you to create that known factor and trust, so you have to produce what we are going to look at next, which is the growth content. You have to produce what we call authority content for the trust and the likability factor. You have to do an element of storytelling, something that is more personal to you, which will enhance the like factor. And finally, you have to produce lead generation content for people to trust you and inquire from you. So basically, you have to post different types of content in cycle for people to not only just know you, but feel that they like you, feel that they can trust you enough to at least inquire business. That's how it goes. So let's start with the first category. So what I call growth content is educational. It's going to be a how-tos, step-by-step guides. It's going to be like anything of value that can educate them in terms of their current reality, the reason why it happened, what they can do about it, what can they do themselves, etc. So you have to, growth content is about educating an audience about relieving the pain from their current reality and getting closer to their desired outcomes, desired reality, right? So a typical example of what I call educational content or how-to content, if we look at a corporate lawyer, for example, 5 ways to sell your business quickly without compromising on your valuation. So as you can see here, so the 5 ways to, that's essentially educational. But can you see how the big why is coming across in the content? So we have the speed, saving time, quick, We talk about selling a business, which is the money element, without the pain or without losing money, compromising on your valuation. So we are really far away from legal updates and articles, right? It's all about giving our founders some quick wins and some things to consider if they want to sell their business quickly. And on top of that, minus the downside of compromising on valuation. So that's an example of what I call growth/educational content. So that's the first category of content that you can post within your micro niche. Number two, what I call authority content. So that is really where your personal takes come across, right? Because it's going to be content that cements your trust by talking about mistakes that that you've seen people make, myth that people might believe that aren't true. And it's essentially opinion-based content, because what you consider being a mistake in the eyes of someone else might not be a mistake, or in the eyes of another lawyer in your field might disagree, right? So that is where you cement your authority and you essentially attract and repel. You attract more of the right people and you repel anyone that doesn't align with that thinking, right? As part of authority content, we also have what I call the how I content, which is this is how I work and this is how I don't, right? So we also call this behind the scenes. And again, the reason why it's authoritative, it's because someone might not really resonate with your way of working or your way of thinking, right? So these are the types of content. Again, it always has to touch on the micro niche. So that doesn't change, but it's more the way it is delivered that really covers more your opinions and reveal more of your personality. So here is the first example, again, in the corporate space, the reason why you can't sell your company. Again, this is what you believe, but it's not something that your competitor might believe to be true, right? So that's one example. Number two, if you're doing this, you're exposing your business. Again, someone might agree, someone might not, but that's okay. Having authority is about getting more of the right people and removing the people that just aren't a fit for whatever reason. So that's the second type of content, authority. Number three, we have storytelling. So storytelling is more for people to have a sense of who you are outside of what you know, right? So growth and authority is really you're demonstrating your competence and you're demonstrating your opinions in regards to your competence. The storytelling is more personal to you in terms of the lessons you've learned in business and the breakthrough that you've had working with a certain type of founder or working in a certain way. So here again, examples on the right, the reason why I don't work with sole founders, for example, I stopped billing by the hour and this happened, right? So again, it's not really in relation to your practice area or the day-to-day work. It's more in relation to you, but it allows people to see a different side, which will increase the likability factor. So that's the third type of content. The final one, we have lead generation. So lead generation, I mean, this is essentially the content that will increase the likelihood, the perceived likelihood of achievement, as Hormozi quotes. For people to inquire from you, they have to believe that you might be in a position to help them. They don't have to be 100% certain, but you have to give them enough incentive for them to believe that it's 30% possible or 50%, enough for them to book a call. And that's where you talk about your case studies. That's where you talk about your client results. This is where you talk about your what I call promotional, which is your services. So the different service offerings that you have and who it's for and who it's not for. Again, on the right hand side, a typical client result. This is how John raised $3 million in 60 days. So you that's how you increase the likelihood of achievement. And something that is just more promotional. Well, over the next 2 weeks, I'm going to offer three consultations, right? So it's just reminding people that you mean business and you are giving people incentive for people to contact you. So this is lead generation. So these are the 4 categories of content that you can post. And again, if we go back to the first slide, you basically do it in cycle, right? So because if you just are posting educational, you are not selling. If you just talk about authority, but you don't have an audience, people will be put off and so on. So that is where the cycle comes in. And in terms of there was a question around the content schedule. Honestly, like depending on how new you are to this, but I mean, to this day, I don't have a heavily complicated schedule, right? My goal is to post 2 to 3 times a week. And I often do more because obviously I'm a heavy user. And what you want to do in terms of the cycle, it's an 80-20 ratio. So 80% is going to be content that is educational, authority-based. So things that really add value and nurture an audience, because you don't want to be selling to people every day. And then 20% is going to be more lead generation, meaning, offers for your business and case studies and things like that. So that's like a rule of thumb. So if you are posting 3 times a week, 2 posts will be value, 1 post will be more lead generation related. Again, if you are starting out, I would say take the time to build an audience. Try to delay the gratification, try to delay the ask, because you don't want to be pitching in your first week of posting content, right? So I would always say give it some time if you are starting out. And try to delay the gratification so that people can kind of get warm to you and trust you more. And generally speaking, content, LinkedIn content, this is really a long-term game. So you have to give it 3 to 6 months anyway, before seeing any tangible results, before seeing more and more inquiries, you have to give it time. So that's where I would always recommend never just market where you are full of business. You always want to be out there marketing because it takes time. People might see your content today and they will reach out in 6 months because they don't have a need right now or for whatever reason. So allow for 3 to 6 months minimum before seeing any results. In terms of the types of content, honestly, once you understand the fundamentals in terms of, okay, I have to speak to my micro niche, I have to link it to something that they care about, which is money or time or emotional benefit. Once you understand that, and then you understand that content is in cycle, educational, storytelling, lead gen, and so on, the medium really becomes secondary because certain people are really good with text. And if you are more a text person, I'll do text posts, right? You can do articles, there's nothing wrong with the medium as such, it's more what goes in there. So you can create text posts. I'm a big visual person, so that is why I love carousels. So what we call carousel is the set of slides on PDF that go on LinkedIn. So if you check my profile, you will see this a lot. And single images as well, like infographics, a list of things. So I'm a big visual, I'm a heavy user of visuals. If you like audio podcast stuff, so you have a functionality that is called LinkedIn Audio, so you can just go on stage, if you will, a bit like Clubhouse, if you had the app. You just go on stage and you speak without showing your face. And finally, you have video as well, so you can do short form, 1 minute long video. You can host live events within the platform. The medium is secondary. What matters is really what goes in there and doing it in a way that is consistent enough. Finally, so one of the questions was about what does bad look like, or what has worked well for lawyers. Again, I mean, this is my personal opinion here. So maybe me content and selfies and posts that don't really add much value to people might work. I don't know, because that isn't something I do. But for me, this is what shit content looks like, essentially, because it's very self-centered. In my opinion, no one needs to see a daily picture of yourself every day. But again, this is my belief. Some people, that's their whole method and strategy relies on selfies. So maybe that works. This is not the way I see it. For me, it's all about adding value to people, giving them quick wins, giving them value. It doesn't matter, like 99% of people will never buy, and that's fine. But what this will create is a great sense of goodwill, because people will recommend you, they will share your profile, and they will appreciate that you are giving. And when you give, eventually you start getting. And in terms of what, well, from my perspective, great content, generally speaking, well, it's content that speaks to a particular audience. So the micro niche, it's very targeted. That's number one. Number two, it's valuable. Like, it's not, I think a lot of lawyers, they fear of giving away too much because they think, well, if I give away this information, people won't reach out to me. And this isn't true. Give away the information, charge for the implementation. I mean, at the end of the day, no one can replace your years spent in law school and your legal education and all the experience. You will always have people that want the free stuff, and they will never buy, and this is fine. These are the prize buyers. But the people that value your services and want to get there quicker and have the peace of mind, they will pay, and they will happily pay a premium because you've added value and you've positioned yourself as a go-to for something. And the last thing for me, at least, is really being personable. Like, no one resonates with AI written content and being a robot that doesn't have any personality and opinions. So really make it personable, as in, just because you talk about something technical doesn't mean that you can't really put your own touch into it. And for that, I want to show you an example. So Jenny is one of my ex-clients. She's in immigration in Canada, and as you can see on the screen, so this is a carousel, this is the PDF, and these are single images, and this is another carousel. But as you can see, like, it's very clear that, like, even from her headline, from her first line here, like, she talks about immigrating in Canada, and she targets business owners. You can see on this one, it's very educational, right? An increased likelihood of achievement. You can start working in Canada in as little as 1 month. On this one here, it's actually more her humor, right? So she's telling a story about air fryer and Nokia, and it feels like so random, but actually when you look at the content, it's actually hilarious. It's a behind the scenes, and she talks about a prospect she had on the call, and he said to her that her fees were too high, and she ended up making the sale. So she ended up closing this client because she spotted an air fryer in the background, and she asked this client, oh, what's the how's the air fryer? I just had one, whatever. And they started to have an actual human conversation about an air fryer. And this prospect said, oh, I actually like you, let's move forward. So that's what this air fryer story is about. Again, like, I think that this is a show that she's watching on Netflix right now. But as you can see, her personality shines through every single time, but it's still very targeted to the things that she does. And the last one here, behind the scenes, I lost 5 clients this week, and this is how I did it. So again, a very interesting twist. And she explains why she lost those clients. They were not aligned with her values and the way she works, and so on. So that's in my opinion what I think great content looks like. And we are at the end of the presentation. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Sarah. I have some questions, but I want to open it up. I guess I'll ask a few, and then if anybody has questions for Sarah, go for it. But I wanted to ask just quickly about tools and resources. So I know there are certain tools out there that help people in different aspects of their social media. So ones that potentially could suggest copy, which I don't think would be that helpful, but you can totally chime in there as well. But other things I think might be more helpful are like formatting visuals to be optimized if you're going to do something like the carousels or tools that spot certain trends in what is either viral or is getting good traction with algorithmic or algorithms that push content for discovery. So are there any tools that you use that you think folks in this community would benefit from?
Mhm. Absolutely. So for my carousels, I use Canva. I mean, I use Canva for my presentations and everything else. So I think it's $10 a month, and honestly, that you can create social media content. You can even create videos with it. This is not something I do personally, but for my carousels and my single image, this is just Canva. And you have templates within Canva as well, so you don't have to. All you have to search for is carousel templates, infographic templates, and it will just give you some options, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So this is what I use for my visuals. And then you do have like scheduling tools and things like that, but you can schedule content from LinkedIn. So if you start out, again, just use LinkedIn to pre-schedule your post if you want to batch create and schedule in advance. And then, I mean, you do have platforms like Taplio. So Taplio is one. It helps you with the writing of the content. You can write because with AI, and it gives you like inspirations and things like that. So if you're looking for more like templated content based on what people are posting, Taplio is a good platform. I'm not using it because I got used to just doing my own. But if you're looking for some technical tool that can help you with the scheduling and the writing the content, and I believe Taplio does the analytics as well. Taplio might be a good one.
Okay. And then just one quick follow-up on the inspiration side of things. What is your method for getting inspiration for posts and keeping things original and fresh? Just on my end, I have just a notepad on my or digital notepad on my phone, where if I just have an idea, I just throw it onto this running list of notes, many of which I never end up posting, but some which I do. But do you like devote time to come up with ideas? Do you read stuff to come up with ideas? Does it happen organically? How does that process look like for you? And what could you advise others who are maybe struggling to come up with good things to write about?
For me, so two things. In terms of my process, it's very simple. Like every time I have an idea that comes, because it's usually randomly during the day when you're doing nothing else, and oh, maybe I could post about this tomorrow. So I just use the notes app on the iPhone, and I just write it down straight away because I know otherwise it would just go into the abyss and it will just disappear. So that's number one. Then I have on Notion, I have my that's where I have my content calendar. So I basically write the content there. If it's carousel, I just drop the link to the Canva document. And then this is how I kind of organize, if you will, in advance, right? The good thing about doing that is that what I do in 3 months down the line, I basically change the calendar to in 3 months as soon as it's posted. And now I have a library of content that I can just either repost as is because no one remembers what I posted 3 months ago, or sometimes I just change one tiny bit. Like I change the first page, the first line if it's a text post, or sometimes I have a new perspective and I can add something. So it saves me from having to reinvent the wheel every single time. In terms of the inspiration, I think when you consume content, that's my way of generating creative ideas, is consuming what other people are doing, even outside the legal industry, like especially the marketers and creatives. They usually have a very interesting twist to things. So I usually follow those and I get some inspiration from them. But generally speaking, like in terms of, I think creativity comes from the creation. Like if you wait for the perfect time to be inspired, that will never happen. Whereas if you force yourself to create one or a couple of posts, naturally you will see that you become a lot more inspired as you produce. So, and if you have no idea where to start with the top 5 questions your clients are asking you. Make a list of the top 5 questions, or the top 5 reasons why they reach out in the first place. What are the top 5 problems that they are having? That's it. You can just literally just start there, and you tell the story, and then you will see that instantly you start thinking about new angles and new way of delivering your information.
That's great. Awesome advice. I want to leave some time for others to ask questions if there are any questions from the group.
Yeah, actually, Sarah, thank you so much for the presentation and the advice. And I kind of had a question, once you've started to develop your audience and your niche and you've, started to gain a following, how do you take it to that next level? Like where do you start to push it to really start to get to 5,000, 10,000 followers and start to see the feedback from that?
It's a really good question, Christian. And I would say the feedback comes from way before. So I only have a big audience because I've been talking about so many things over the years. So people started to follow me for different reasons. But if you are starting out with a micro niche, it's because it's very targeted, you are going to grow and you are going to get feedback a lot sooner than that. So the way it's going to evolve. So first of all, I mean, in the beginning, your content is only seen by your connection. So you have to connect with more people. And the way to know if it's working, if you will, is number one, are you growing your audience? So if you are attracting CEOs of tech companies under 1 million in revenue, are you attracting people? Are you attracting those CEOs? Are they following you? Are they connecting with you? Are they liking your posts? Are they commenting your posts? And the first 3 months, they won't necessarily engage in terms of likes and comments, but they will, if anything, follow you, and that's how you know that it's working. But often what also ends up happening is people contacting you, and that's how you know, especially if they're the right people and they contact you for the right reason. This is how you know that your content is working. So now for me, it reached a point where, well, I mean, I get calls booked every week. I don't even have to do outreach. If you want to take it to the next level, you can do outreach. So you can reach out to people that have liked and commented and followed. So you can do a bit of that. In my case, I don't even have to, because I just get enough inquiries every week. And people, by the time they reach out, they already know what I do. They already know who I help and so on. It's just a matter of how, in terms of what's the best service for them, what budget, and when can they get started, depending on their urgency.
No, that makes perfect sense. And so with the analytics that LinkedIn offers, right, which are somewhat limited but can be helpful, what do you pay attention to kind of early in this growth? Is it followers? Is it impressions? Is it likes? Like, what is it that you feel like really drives that growth?
Mm-hmm. So it depends on it really depends on the goal of your, on the stage you're at, and the goal of the post. So if you're in a stage where you're starting out, your first metric is growth. You need to grow as quickly as possible, but growth from the right people. So you are going to look at impressions, of course, because the more impressions and the more people have seen it, and there is a reason why it worked, right? So you have to figure out what sticks. So you look at impressions, you look at profile views, and you look at follower growth. So if you see all of those metrics in green, and the followers come from the CEOs, for example, this is a good sign. it means that you are growing. As you become much more established in terms of audience, so usually a couple of months down the line, now you start looking at other metrics, which is obviously likes and comments. Is the content being liked and commented on by the right people? Right people meaning ideal clients, competitors, because usually if the competitors comment is because they are targeting the same group, so they want to show up as well in your content. Partners as well, so accountants that target the same group as well. So that is what you can look at further, because in the beginning people don't really engage. They only engage once they feel a bit more comfortable. Finally, the last stage, once you have an audience, they've engaged, they've liked your content, at some point you need to start receiving inquiries in terms of how you work and can you help with X. So again, are you receiving more and more inquiries over time? So that's a good metric to watch out for. And if you are doing lead generation type post, your call to action should be very specific. It should be book an appointment, book a consultation, whatever. And are you getting that when you post these types of content? If you are, then you know that your content is working and you are obviously attracting the right people for business.
Awesome. Thank you.
Of course, you're welcome.
Hi, this is Ruben. Just a quick question. So maybe it's the same for everybody, but I really focused the first part of when I went off on my own on the typical, business to person, I guess, relationship. Spent a lot of money on SEO and marketing and realized it's not for me. And then I really started using LinkedIn a lot more. I think I'm pretty disciplined when it comes to marketing business to business, but I'm wondering if you could kind of tell me a little bit about when you help clients differentiating between maybe an immigration lawyer or a divorce lawyer, like their clients are individuals or maybe a family, but maybe people like us who are clients are more companies, right? And finding the right person within the company. Yeah, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, sure. This is a good question. I mean, at the end of the day, companies, as in like corporations, like entities, don't make decisions. It's the people within them. And I think what you have to, so you usually either target the champion, so whoever is going to champion your services, or the decision makers, or you can even do both with two different types of content. But then it becomes a bit you basically would have to post two different types of content that speaks to two different types of people. So I would really look at make sure that your content is targeting whoever buys from you within the business. Is it a CEO? Is it the CFO? Is it the general counsel? And you want to kind of in your content really call them out. So instead of saying, for example, this is why doing this will cost you money, you would say this is why this will cost general counsels or tech general counsels, if it's industry specific, money. This is really the only difference. And in fact, it's not really that different, even if it's B2B, because I have many of my clients that target B2B. So it's not really individuals in that sense paying with their money, but it's more the company's money. But it's the same principle is, okay, who buys from you? General counsels. Okay, you need to target the general counsels.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
Is there any part of that where you're thinking also about the way in which the LinkedIn algorithm surfaces certain posts to others? So if you are targeting general counsels or you're targeting any audience, if you name them or you name them by proxy, I guess, like top lawyers or whatever at a company, is it going to surface that to people that it thinks are those people? Is there anything sophisticated, or am I overthinking it?
Yeah, no, I wish it would be very easy. I mean, who knows? Maybe with AI, because they've started to incorporate AI within the platform, but it's pretty terrible at the moment. But who knows? Maybe in a couple of months, if not years, the AI will be able to analyze the words. I don't know if you've noticed, but you know, when someone posts, you have the AI, the LinkedIn AI that is suggesting you to ask a question or something. So maybe one day, based on keyword, they will be able to push it to the right audience. But at the moment, if you want your content to be viewed by the right people, I mean, first, you call them out in your content. That's the most obvious one. But first, and second, and you have to make sure that you are connecting with them as well, because the algorithm will push your content to your connections first, not your followers. It used to be that, but now it changed. It's your connections first. So if your ideal client profile is a GC of a company in this type of industry, you want to make sure that every day you add 5 of those, because it's very much a volume game. It compounds. If you add 5 a day, by the end of the week, you have 25 connection requests. By the end of the month, you have 100. Even if half accept your connection request, that is still 50. And now they start seeing your content as well.
All right. This has been super helpful. I don't know. I have a lot to learn in this space right now. I've been using LinkedIn as my personal diary or Twitter account, but I'm not methodical or scientific at all about it. So it's good to think about it in terms of systems and that life cycle that you pointed out. I personally appreciate the advice here. And yeah, if anyone has any other thoughts or questions, jump in. I know we got 2 minutes left. And if not, we can give Sarah her time back.
Let's see if anyone else has any questions.
I think I'm all good. I think I messaged Brian about this. So is it possible for us to get the slideshow, just because I would love to be able to look back through that again for just looking at how to keep content in its own boxes, because that's definitely the biggest thing that come out of this for me.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. And I mean, I think, Brian, did I mention the checklist, or I can't remember now?
I don't think so.
Okay, perfect. So well, if I haven't, I'll share the slide in definitely, so you can look back. And I also have like what I call my LinkedIn legal readiness checklist. So it's just like a document that walks you through some of the steps in terms of content. And we haven't really covered profile optimization and those things. So this will be covered in the checklist, and hopefully that will give you additional like tips that you can just implement right away.
Right. That would be so helpful. If you want to reach out to Sarah outside of here, I think you probably know how to find her.
No, it's okay.
So message me on the Slack group as well, and I can connect you. But thanks so much, Sarah, for doing this. This is awesome. You gave us an hour of your time, and so I'm super grateful for that. And yeah, this was really, really awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a lovely, evening or afternoon.
See ya.
Thank you, guys. See you.